Well, hello. Welcome once again to Stuff and Things, where I like to talk about stuff and occasionally even things. I'm your good friend Bradley, and today is a very pleasant Sunday Stuff and Things. And on this pleasant Sunday Stuff and Things, we have stuff and things to talk about, including upcoming videos, things that you can look forward to on Stuff and Things and Stuff and Things Plays. We will talk a little bit about Mississippi River Special Reserve Flake. We have a first impressions video coming up on that soon. Talk a bit about the fact that I have been desperate for a pet, some sort of warm, furry creature that I can call my own. And some of the options that I've been considering because our options are fairly limited. Also, we have to do it. We'll talk a little bit about the Seahawks. The football season is here, everybody. Hooray! And then we will have a couple of your questions and hashtag askstuffandthings. So let's get started. All right, gang. The Valheim series is getting close to being done on Stuff and Things Plays. Many of you have been watching that. It's been one of the more popular series that we've had on Stuff and Things Plays. I think I mentioned in last week's Sunday Stuff and Things that we have some non-subscribers, some people from outside of the Stuff and Things fold who have been watching those videos as well, some of whom are hate watching because they're just so angry about what I do in those videos. It's great. The series is great. I'm really enjoying it. I really like that game, but I just recorded the last episode, or at least the last episode for now. There isn't really a definitive end to that game, but I did something within the game that I considered a good stopping point, and I know there are going to be updates. It's still in early access, so maybe in the future we'll jump in and check out new content once that drops, but for now, that's going to be it. So that's about, I think, 9 more episodes that are in the can, ready to go. So that's basically 3 weeks. And after 3 weeks, we will be starting a brand new series on Stuff and Things Plays, and I can't wait to tell you what that's going to be. And then on this channel, Stuff and Things, we have a first impressions video coming up this Wednesday for Mississippi River Special Reserve Flake. I showed you this tin last week, said that it showed up from Sutliff in my P.O. box. Wasn't sure what it was, but during the video I guessed, oh, maybe it's Mississippi River Special Reserve Flake, and many of you confirmed that in the comments. So I looked into it, and yes, that is what this is, and that is what I did my first impressions video on. It's interesting that Seattle Pipe Club and Sutliff are putting out all these alternate versions of some of their most popular blends, of some of Seattle Pipe Club's most popular blends, like Mississippi River, like Plum Pudding. We did the, I'm going to conflate these two. You guys can correct me in the comments, but was it Mississippi River rum barrel aged and then Plum Pudding bourbon barrel aged, or was it the other way around? I can't remember, but I did both of those. Those were interesting. And this one, I don't know too much about it because before I do a first impressions video, I don't like to sully my mind with too many details about the blend because it might predispose me to think a certain way about it. But this is supposed to have some different aged components put in it, so I don't know. It's interesting. I definitely thought it tasted different from the original Mississippi River, but again, the Mississippi River that I reviewed on the channel years ago was the original Mississippi River, not the Sutliff produced one, so bear that in mind. But this first impressions video will be posting this Wednesday. It is quite interesting. It is an interesting blend, and you should check it out. I was going to delve a little bit more into this first impressions video, but I think I'll leave most of those impressions for the first impressions video that you can watch on Wednesday. But one thing I was going to mention, this is a flake, supposedly, but I don't know if it was just my tin, but it was a almost broken flake, partially rubbed out flake. And the longer I've been in the hobby, and the more I have sampled different kinds of cuts of different kinds of blends, I have to say, the less work there is for me, the better. And I know some of you out there love plugs, but I think a flake is about as far as I want to go. And especially a flake like this that was so easy to rub out, that's fantastic. And I enjoy some of the things that pressing a blend into flake form can impart to the blend. But plugs, I'm just not going to bring that with me. I'm not going to have that every day. I always have to have a knife on me, and I often do have a knife on me. But it's like, you have to have a surface to prepare it, and I'm so often in my vehicle or on the job when I'm enjoying a pipe that, I don't know, a plug just doesn't really do it for me. A flake like this that's easy to rub out, a crumble cake that you can just break off a chunk, rub it out, throw it in your pipe, I like the most a nice ribbon blend. I don't know why my mind is not able to come out with a sentence right now. And I've mentioned that in the past when I was trying to find a replacement for Elizabethan. It had to be a ribbon blend and a nicely loose cut ribbon blend, or ribbon cut blend, because that's really the most convenient for me. And I know so many people will expound on the virtues of all these different cuts, and I can appreciate them in certain situations. But I did Spark Plug recently by GLPs. I liked it, but I'm not going to enjoy it as much as I would if it were ribbon cut. But then I know if it were ribbon cut, it would be a very different blend. So I definitely understand that, and I definitely can appreciate that. But just the longer I go, the less likely I am to want to sit down with some sort of surface and a knife and chop up a plug. It's okay in certain situations, but usually when I have a pipe, it's not the kind of situation where I can enjoy a plug. That's just me. Let me know in the comments below if you feel the same. That's good coffee. So, some of you may or may not know, my fiance Diamond and I live in an apartment, and we live in a city where the average home cost is, I think, over $600,000 now. It's ridiculous. I think my dad's home just appraised for over $900,000, and it's fine. It's not something that I would consider worth $900,000. The home prices are ridiculous in this community. It's Bellingham, Washington, the Pacific Northwest. So we rent an apartment, and it's interesting that in this town, it seems like very, very few places where you rent allow you to have pets. And I know it's different in different cities. I think especially, I don't know, places like New York, and I could be completely wrong about this, but it seems like many people have dogs there and almost everybody rents there. So I would assume it's just kind of understood that, you pay a pet deposit, you can have a dog, because we can't make it so no human can own a dog within the city limits. Here, it's not really like that. If you're renting, pretty much anywhere, almost nowhere allows you to have a dog or even a cat. So our building, no cats, no dogs. My fiance Diamond had a fish that died recently. That was like as close as we came to having a pet. And I've been really wanting a pet. I've always loved animals, and I've always enjoyed having pets. I would love a dog, obviously. That would be my first choice. But since that's off the table, I'm trying to think of something else that I could have. And in the past, I've had many pets, especially as a child. I had rats, and I don't think we had a hamster, but I had gerbil as a kid. I had an iguana. We had birds and fish, and obviously dogs and cats too. Since I've been an adult, I'd had a couple ferrets, which are definitely interesting, but I don't think they would pass the fiance test these days. So I was trying to narrow it down, like what could I actually have, something that I could sort of interact with, because I enjoy fish. I've kept fish in the past as well, but yeah, they're beautiful, and it's fun to set up their aquarium, and I like all that, but I want something that I can hold, I can interact with. And so that means probably a mammal, because lizards are kind of interesting too. But again, there's not a lot passing back and forth between a lizard and a human. And I'm not a huge fan of feeding live beasts to other beasts. I don't know. So I thought mammal. Then I was thinking, what kind of mammal? And I think I'm going to go with gerbils. Because they're cute, they're fuzzy, and they like to be together. Hamster, they need to be alone. They'll fight with each other if there are two hamsters, but gerbils need to be with each other. And it's kind of funny because I had a couple gerbils a few years back. Man, it's probably been more like 6 years back. They were Kublai and Genghis, because they're Mongolian. They're the Mongolian gerbils. They were fun, but then when I was a kid, I had a gerbil. And back then, it was before the internet, really. And also, whoever I purchased it from at the pet store either didn't know or didn't bother telling me that gerbils need to be with another gerbil. They do very poorly when they are alone. So I bought this gerbil, had it in a tank that was probably too small for it because, again, they're just like, oh, this will be fine in this tank. It was in like a 10-gallon aquarium or something, which might be fine for a gerbil. Anyway, they didn't tell me that he needed a friend. And I named him Mervin. I put him in his little tank. I gave him toys. I gave him food. I tried to interact with him. He would bite me pretty much whenever my hand was anywhere near his face. He would dig incessantly at the side of the terrarium. He wouldn't run on his wheel. He was just angry all the time. And kind of sucked. And it kind of sucked for him because I didn't know at the time that he needed to have a friend or he would get very neurotic. And neurotic he was, for sure. But he ended up living for 5 years. And I know that that's technically possible, that some little small animals and gerbils especially can live, I think they say typically 2 to 4 years, but 5 years. And I have to imagine that it was spite that did it to him, or that helped him have that longevity. He just hated me so much for putting him in this miserable situation that he wanted to hang on and make my life miserable because, you know, I was in my little room and his little cage was near my bed and he would just be scraping on the side of that cage all night long. Yeah, I tried. I would pick him up and then he would just be like, the entire time I had him in my hand, I'd be like, it's my pet. But hopefully we can avoid that if I get some new gerbils. And if I do, I will probably, I mean, this isn't going to turn into a gerbil channel, don't worry, but I might show some footage of the two young men. I think I'm going to get boys. They're a little less, I don't know, the females, small animal females often seem to be a little more testy than the males. The males seem to be a little more easygoing. Now, I'm not drawing any sort of equivalency between small mammals, especially rodents, and human beings. So please bear that in mind. But stay tuned. We may have some gerbils on the channel in the future. All right, it's football season. I just hit my overhead light. And I know some of you are just like Diamond and you dread the coming of football season. And I have to tell her, just like I have to tell you, I'm a very low maintenance football fan. I don't watch any games really other than the Seahawks, and even then, I often don't watch the whole game. I'm, watching live streams, watching footage, and then I'll watch the highlights afterwards. I root for one team. I'm not super involved. I'm not taking over the TV, watching football games all the time. And on the Sunday video, every week, I may mention whether or not the Seahawks won and what I thought about their performance. So calm down, it'll be fine. I don't talk about any other sports on this channel, but I like the Seahawks. And they played, and they won. And they won rather handily, and that was quite nice. They played the Colts. A lot of people were wondering how Carson Wentz was going to be. He seemed healthy, and he seemed to play fine, but there wasn't really much competition in that game. The Seahawks came out of the gate really strong. Offense looked really great. They have a new offensive coordinator, Waldron, from the Rams. And then they sort of slowed down during the middle of the game, and that's when the defense actually looked pretty good. The pass rush is looking quite good this year. And then the Seahawks came on again with the offense at the end. Wilson had 4 touchdown passes, not a ton of yards, but had a really great quarterback rating, really good yards per attempt. They had a balanced running game. Like, it looks good. Now, obviously, this is just the first week, so we can't put too much into that. But I think at the beginning of every football season, I sort of try to gauge my optimism level. Like, how far do I think they can go? And the NFC West is looking very tough this year, at least initially. Every team from the NFC West, the Cardinals, the Rams, the 49ers, and the Seahawks won. So I don't know. I'm not going to say division winners. I definitely think they have a very good chance of making it to the playoffs and making it maybe to the divisional round of the playoffs. And I guess we'll just have to see. They're playing the Titans today as you're watching this. I guess they will have already played, or the game will probably still be ongoing as you're watching this. And the way the Titans are looking right now, I don't know that the Seahawks should have too much trouble with them. So yeah, let's say I'm cautiously optimistic. How do you feel about your team, if you have a team? Are you paying any attention to football this year? Let me know in the comments below. All right, and this isn't even a topic. This isn't something I was even going to talk about, but I was at the grocery store today, and several weeks back I was talking about, encounters at the deli counter at the supermarket, and how so many people seem so persnickety and particular about the cut of their meat. And today, there's a perfect example. There was an older man, I don't know, probably in his late 60s, early 70s. He was ordering some turkey, deli-cut turkey, at the counter, and the woman went through the trouble of cutting out, I don't know, it was like 2 pounds of turkey. It was a huge mound. And she put it on the scale, and the guy's kind of looking over. He's like, "Hey, why is it all shredded like that?" And she's like, "Shredded?" He's like, "Yeah, it's all shredded." And I sort of peeked over to look. And basically, it was cut very, very thin. And some of the edges, like let's say this is the edge, this is the meat, and maybe there's a little bit of like shredding on the end of one cut. And it was because it was very thin. That was my interpretation anyway. And the woman said, "Well, yeah, we cut it really thinly, and because you wanted it cut very thinly, and just the way the blade's cutting right now, it might shred the edges a little bit." And he would not accept that meat. He did not like the fact that it was kind of shredded on the edges. And he made her, I don't know what they do with that meat. Like, do they just throw it away? I don't know. But he made her get rid of that and recut all of his turkey. She had to cut it a little bit thicker so there wouldn't be any shredding on the edges. And I so desperately wanted, with the utmost politeness, to, well, maybe not tap him on the shoulder because people freak out about that nowadays, but to get his attention and very gently and politely ask him, why? Why do you care? Who the frick cares what your turkey looks like? Are you making some sort of like, I don't know, deli or like a buffet table for a visiting dignitary or something? No, you're gonna slap it on some Wonder Bread and shove it in your mouth. Who the frick cares if your deli meat is slightly shredded? And this poor woman has to recut all your meat, probably throw that meat away. I don't know if maybe they can take it home or something, but I'm kind of fascinated by it, because that's just, I don't have that bone in my body. It would never occur to me to send my deli meat back because the edges were slightly shredded. Who cares what it looks like? And I just don't know. Like, I'm wondering if I asked him this question, his response would probably just be like, "Well, I don't want it shredded." But why? Why don't you want it shredded? In a perfect world, maybe all deli meat would be, the most amazingly presentable piece of slab of meat you've ever seen in your life. But does it matter? Who the frick cares? I just don't understand. There's certain things about humans that I just don't understand. And that's one of those things. So I had to bring that up. It's kind of a follow-up on the deli story from a few weeks ago. All right, gang, it is time for a truncated hashtag #AskStuffandThings. We're not getting a lot of questions lately. Actually, we got a lot of questions last week. Was it last week or the week before? I can't remember. But we have a couple this week, and one from our good friend Ashes of the Phoenix, another from Surge L. So remember, if you have questions for me and you would like them answered on the Sunday Stuff and Things, tweet at SAT Bradley with the hashtag #AskStuffandThings. Also, if you leave questions in the YouTube comments section, I try to go through all those and pick those out. And if you are a Patreon supporter, you can ask me questions there. But this week, via YouTube comments, we have a question from Ashes of the Phoenix. Ashes says, "I've got Sunday questions. What's the worst tea you've ever had? Also, when or how long ago did you first try Elizabethan and realize it was your favorite blend?" Good questions. I was trying to think of a tea I have had that was my least favorite. And it may have to be, it might be Captain Black, because I did a review of Captain Black years back. And that's one of those funny videos that actually got, you know, tens of thousands of views. And a lot of people who don't typically watch my channel have seen that video, many of whom were quite irritated by the fact that I didn't enjoy Captain Black because they thought I was being pretentious or a hipster or whatever. I think the premise of my video was that it's not great. It's not the worst thing in the world. Like, it didn't make me physically ill, but there are so many other better blends out there. And, you know, it's not that much more expensive to get a good blend online. But there are some people who just swear by it and absolutely love it. And if that's the case, that's fine. But for me, it was just hot air and had a tendency to be kind of bitey. I don't typically like blends that are sort of based in Black Cavendish. Yeah, just didn't like it. So that's probably my least favorite. Yeah, I think that would be the case. And then as far as Elizabethan, I first had it whenever I posted that first review of Elizabethan, which was a long time ago, 6 years ago, maybe even more than 6 years ago. But I don't think that I decided it was my favorite or like my everyday blend until maybe a few more tins in. I liked it enough that I bought, you know, another tin after that first review tin was over with. It was probably by the end of the second tin that I was like, yeah, this is the stuff. This is my blend. So thank you for the question, Ashes of the Phoenix, and thank you very much for the support. Next from Serge L. Serge says, I have a hashtag askstuffandthings, I'm assuming question, but I'm not on Twitter. Hope it's okay to ask in the comments. Yes, it is. Have you ever tried Peterson's University Flake? As far as Weber's go, it's quite nice. There is a slight berry, dark fruit je ne sais quoi to it, but in my opinion it disappears upon ignition and you're left with a nice Virginia Burley blend. I would be very interested in knowing if you've tried it, and if not, I'd be curious in knowing your thoughts on this blend. Love the channel, and I always look forward to your videos. Cheers. Thanks for the question, Serge. I never have had it, and you mentioned the reason why. It is because it has some, I think, a plum topping on it. If you are correct, and if it does sort of disappear after the initial light and it becomes just a nice Virginia Burley blend, I'd be willing to try it. Yeah, we'll see. I might try that soon. I have quite a few other blends in a giant box that I need to get to as well, but I will definitely, I think I kind of crossed University Flake off my list, but I will put it back on my list and we'll see if it's one of those very light aromatics that I can actually enjoy. Thanks for the question, Serge. You definitely do make it sound a little more appetizing than I thought. All right, gang, but I think that's about it for this week's Sunday 7 Things, except for the very best part. And that is where we thank you, the Patreon supporters who make this show go, who make these lights possible, who help pay for the crazily fancy, expensive camera that is filming this video right now, who help provide blends for review, all that good stuff. We can't monetize many of these videos on YouTube, and so that really helps out. If you would like to help out, there is a link in the description box below to the Stuff and Things Patreon, and every week we shout out those who support the channels at $25 or more a month. People like Kirk Crompton, Private Eye, Glenn, Jason Buckner, Jen O'Side, John Leone, Gloria Phillips, Ryan McFadin, Matt Marino, Joe Heaphy, and MD of the North. But let's not forget the Maniacs, the crazy people who support the channels $100 a month. People like Peter Straub, Bob Magee, David Gaudreau, and Ashes of the Phoenix. Thank you all so much for your support. Thank you all so much for watching, subscribing, liking, commenting, sending in your questions. It really helps out a lot. Please stay tuned on Wednesday for the Mississippi River Special Reserve Flake First Impressions video. Kevinson's adventures continuing on Valheim for a while, they will end fairly soon, well, in 3 weeks' time. But until next time, until we meet again, I've been a good friend, Bradley. You've been the audience. This has been Stuff and Things. I will see you later. Trying out a new facial hairstyle. Doing the kind of bushier mustache and more trimmed down beard. I think it looks okay.